Okay, so the next one is talking about Brother Yoon. So this person's just posted, well, let those that wish to be conned flock to his feet. And that was all he posted. And then somebody responded and mentioned that, he has sacrificed and suffered for the sake of Christ, more or less. I'm just paraphrasing. And so in response to that comment, he wrote the rest of this. If he is suffering, it is God's will. You flock to his feet and give him money and fall about him. Thou shalt have no other God. Seems to have eluded you. Why is he suffering? What sins is he being held to account for? Where does he get the money to make these money-raising tours? If he truly had God's blessing, then he would not be suffering. You are judging me while your own sins you are blind to, when I am warning the naive. Let me and God worry about me. I am not the one rushing to fall about the feet of false idols and false prophets, nor am I suffering or holding tours to raise money. What happened to the Lord will provide. May God have mercy on your soul as you seem to persist in your desire to burn in hell.
Nice.
So,
love this guy.
Quote.
I got tingly feelings of love all over. I just feel so tingly inside. Okay, so first of all, this guy is full of contradictions. And so I want to address that first. First, he says that, why are you attacking me? Says the attacker. That's kind of nice that, he feels like he's being attacked as he's attacking others. This is like, the person that like smacks you and says, no, you can't smack me back. This is, if he would have just stuck with his first comment, I could have answered it probably with a little bit more sobriety. But because he then shares a lot of really ignorant things, I'm going to have to address those.
Well, maybe could you speak into, I am curious to hear your response on, could you speak into his first comment about being conned by
Yes.
Brother Yoon, and then maybe go over, because you're right, I agree with you. The other stuff is all over the place, but I would like to hear.
Yep. Okay, so Brother Yoon has been accused of lying about his story and also conning the world to get rich. This started in 2002, early 2000s, just as he started traveling around. Immediately, there were a lot of attacks on Brother Yoon. And we had a very wise board at Back to Jerusalem. We still have the same board, and I'm very, very thankful for the board, because the board said, do not answer these attacks. Just do what God has called you to do. Otherwise, we will spend all of our energy, all of our money, all of our finances, all of our resources, all of our time in life fighting the enemy instead of preaching the gospel. So just preach the gospel and don't worry about these attacks. So the attacks started to come from several different directions. One, from the Chinese embassies. Whenever the Chinese embassies began to hear that Brother Yoon was speaking at different places, they would flood information into churches, like via fax. In those days, believe it or not, in early 2000s, fax machine was a main way of like getting info from place to place. Email was not always so big with a lot of people. Phone calls were made, threats were made, questions were posed about Brother Yoon. And then there was also a ministry out of Germany that had helped Brother Yoon get out of Germany, that kind of controlled Brother Yoon. And when they didn't have that control, they began to attack. And what was the attack? The attacks were mainly two things. Now it's become three things, but in those days it was two things. So I'm going to address the two things first. And this is where this guy's information probably comes from. He probably heard a little bit of it, but not enough to be able to defend himself. He has no clue what he's talking about, because I would love to talk with him. I'd love to be on a podcast or a phone call or face-to-face with the guy and ask him what makes Brother Yoon a fraud, because he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. The first thing that they say makes Brother Yoon a fraud is that he did not escape from Zhengzhou prison, that he was released or he paid a bribe to get out. That is the attack on him. One of the things that I usually ask people is that, do you believe that he was in prison in Zhengzhou? Because there's record of that. There's record of Brother Yoon being in prison. In Zhengzhou Maximum Security Prison, I've actually been there. I took a picture that was published in his book, The Heavenly Man. Um, yes, he was there. So if he was there, now you have to answer the question, how did he get out? The Chinese do not have a record of him leaving. They don't know how he left. He is the only person in the history of Zhengzhou maximum security prison to walk out without being released or killed. So, if you think that that story is a fraud, you have to come up with evidence and not just pull it out of your butt. So if you think that he paid a bribe, who did he pay the bribe to? How much? How did he get the money in prison? When he was being beaten and held in solitary confinement, who got money to the guards to get him past 3 gates out of a maximum security prison? I hope you have a good story, because an accusation demands facts, demands that you back it up. At least have a halfway decent way of defending it. Brother Yoon has a way of telling his story. I remember when I was in university, there was a professor that tried to tell me how stupid the story was of Moses leaving with all of the Jews from Egypt. That there's no record in Egyptian history talking about the Jews leaving. And my question to the professor was, Professor, did the Jews used to be slaves in Egypt? Yes. Professor, are the Jews still slaves in Egypt today? No. Professor, how did they leave? Because the Jews have a story. So if you're going to come up with a story, you're going to have to back it up with facts. Brother Yoon backs it up. I was in prison. I'm no longer in prison. This is how I got out. You can call him fraudulent. That's his story. He's the one that tells it, and nobody's been able to refute it since. And Brother Yoon has witnesses that are currently living outside of China that can testify to this is what I saw. One of them being Peter Shu. Peter Shu, who now lives in Colorado Springs, said that Brother Yoon came up to his gate and said, Brother, God has told me to leave. And Peter Shu said, this time is for you. God has not told me it's time for me to leave. And he watched Brother Yoon walk out of the prison. Brother Yoon did not say, hey, I've paid somebody. He can get us both out for an extra 90 quid. Instead, he just said, God has told me it's time to leave. And that's Brother Yoon's story today. So that's fraud number 1, claim. And I think it's easy to refute if you believe in miracles. If you don't, then you're going to have to find facts to back up your theory. Second thing is that Brother Yoon is going around getting money off people. Okay, great. Good story. Brother Yoon's a millionaire, shaking people down and getting money. Where does Brother Yoon live? In an apartment. What does Brother Yoon drive? He doesn't have a car. He takes public transportation. He has a small apartment in Europe, and he doesn't have a car. Where does he put his money? If you think that he is getting rich defrauding people, you're going to have to find out where he's stashing it, because I've worked with the guy for over 24 years and I have no clue of him having any money whatsoever when I have to loan him money to get his hair cut almost every time we're together. Brother Yoon is one of the most giving, frugal individuals I've ever traveled with in my life. Brother Yoon stays at some of the cheapest hotels and is the happiest guy you've ever seen. He's like a golden retriever. I've only flown with him. I've flown with him many, many times in life, and I've only flown with him in economy. I won't fly with him in economy because he preaches to everyone around him, even though they don't speak his language. And I feel embarrassed. So I sit in a different area of the airplane. So the idea of him getting rich is bogus. The idea of his story being fraud is bogus. But people don't want to do the research. What they want to do is hear a rumor, accept it, and then promote it without any evidence whatsoever. And this guy already shows that he doesn't really know what he's talking about, because he says, if he's suffering, what sins is he paying for? Dude, you sound like you need to be a counselor for Job in the Bible. Well, if you're suffering, Job, it must be because you did something wrong. Just ask for and repent and God will forgive you. If people suffer, if Christians suffer because they're doing wrong, Jesus has some sins to answer for. If people suffer because they're doing wrong, Paul has some sins to answer for. All of the disciples died a premature death except for John. And John was the only one that didn't die a premature death per se, but he did get a paid for vacation to the glorious Isle of Patmos, where he suffered and was persecuted and was isolated because of his belief in Jesus Christ. All of the disciples suffered. All of the early church suffered. All of the underground house church suffers. Jesus promised us that we would suffer. Is Jesus a liar? Is this guy calling Jesus a liar? When Jesus said, just as they hated me, they will hate you. When Jesus promised us that in the last days we would suffer for his name's sake. That's a promise. A promise we don't like. Maybe this guy likes to cling to the promises of, well, we're all children of God and we get mercy from him and he will bless us with many blessings that abound. But this is a promise that we don't like to hang on to. This is a promise from Christ. So that is a pretty easy, I think, way to answer. Do you think that was sufficient, Stephanie, or is there something more that you feel that I should say?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think you answered, and I've met Brother Yoon one time at the Business as Missions conference in Dubai, and I had read up a bit on some of the controversy before we left for Dubai. And I was questioning and I was praying and I was like, Lord, is this someone that is fraudulent, or am I going to this and I think all I needed to see was, or someone that's just trying to get money. That was really the question. I think all I needed to see was Brother Yoon and some of his friends, the people that he was with, cramming into the junkiest little van that was rented for their transportation. And I thought, I don't think that this person is trying to get our money, because if he was, I don't think that's the transportation he'd be using, and no, it was clear. There's a purity and he's been through so much that I think we have so much to learn from him. And probably, quite honestly, a lot of Americans don't relate to what he's been through and can't imagine, because we have a lot of mega church pastors in America that it is all about the fame and being a celebrity and stealing money from maybe trusting vulnerable people. So I think maybe a lot of people are on their guard, very much have their defenses up. And then I think the other issue, like you mentioned, is do we believe in miracles or not? But yeah, no, I appreciate that and just kind of answering some of the specifics of the questioning.